Mr. Paul Hamilton joining us on the Western Hotline. His appearance brought to you by Raylax Honda. Raylax, we got this. When it comes to Sabres development camp, he's going to give us the rundown, and also July 1st, unrestricted free agency here as we get rolling in the NHL. A lot of movement yesterday, Paul, and today could see, obviously, quite a bit more. But, Paul, you've often referred to it as silly season. It feels like the market itself is maybe not that primed to get silly. We might see silly contracts, though, because teams have a lot of money to spend and maybe not that many prime players to spend it on.
Yeah, well, a lot of the free agents are gone. I mean, you look at a list. I mean, Besser's still there. Ehlers is still there. If we're talking about forwards, other than that, it's pretty much dried up. I mean, a lot of teams have done their thing, either re-signed people or, in Marner's case, signed them and traded them, and so a lot of it has been done. The goaltender thing, Alex Lyon, trying to deal with what Elliot Friedman was saying, and he's a career .902 save percentage. His save percentage, not last year, was but with the Red Wings before, it's been over 900. In 2023-4, 904. With the Florida Panthers, it was only 15 games, but it was 914. So he really didn't get an opportunity to start playing games all that much until the 2023-24 season with the Red Wings. I mean, he was, 15 games in 1 year, 2 games the next year, 6. So he really didn't play a lot in the NHL until the last 2 years with the Detroit Red Wings.
Yep. Would you be surprised? I guess you're not surprised, Paul, that they would add a guy would peg more for the NHL than someone that's maybe more for the AHL?
At goal?
In goal.
No, they, I think it's something they've needed. We talked about it, that it just going into the season with 2 young goaltenders, I just don't think is the thing to do here, especially when you just have to make the playoffs. So I think you need to bring somebody in that you can count on. Maybe you're going to start with Luukkonen as your starter, but if it doesn't work out, you got to change it fast. You can't go with it for 2 months and be in the middle of a 13-game losing streak or something like that. If you see that he hasn't really improved or gotten better, you got to have a guy you can throw in net and take over. And I think James Reimer is just, even if he does decide to keep playing hockey, is just 38 years old isn't going to cut it. Alex Lyon's 32 years old, but in December he'll be 33. And as I said, the last couple of years has played some games. I mean, he's played 74 games in the last couple of years. So, and actually has a winning record, as I said, a save percentage in 2023-24 that 900 used to be, well, that's not very good. It should be up around 915, 920, but it's not that way anymore. Save percentages have come down in the NHL.
So on that, it's a very limited list now, Paul, of what's available. So, like you mentioned, Ehlers and Besser, Mikael Granlund, Jonathan Drouin, then you're getting pretty thin. What do you
Drouin, I don't think that's not. I wouldn't go after Jonathan Drouin.
Okay, but either way, like the free agent forwards that's what's available.
Yeah.
Would you think the Sabres will try to sign one of those bigger names for a long-term deal? You think it might be more likely that there's a Jason Zucker move, similar 1 year, something short-term that they'll be looking at?
Well, they should absolutely try. I mean, what's the worst they can say? They can say, no, we're not coming to Buffalo. So, yes, they should try. But it's a hard sell to come to Buffalo. I mean, you may have to look at find a guy like Zucker who was willing to come here and one of the lesser names, and is willing to stay here, re-signed for 2 years after being here for a year. So I think that's probably it'll wind up because we've known all along. Anytime we've said the names, that, well, we understand that their first reaction is we don't want to come to Buffalo. Ehlers, last year, that's one of the targeted that the Sabres had. Wasn't going to work out. I mean, was he not willing to sign a long-term deal with the Buffalo Sabres once he got to Buffalo? That's the thing that could have held that thing up. So that's part of it too. That all right, well, you've already dealt with it once. Why would he have changed his mind this year?
Paul, that's one thing we talked about a little bit in the first hour, that on some level, Terry Pegula, Kevin Adams, Jarmo Kekalainen, like Jarmo's here for the first time, so maybe he's been told about how difficult it is to get guys and how extensions are not going to be signed, and players out there don't have a lot of faith. And maybe, I don't know, I'm just kind of dreaming and writing some fan fiction here, but maybe Jarmo says something to the effect of, are we ever going to do anything about that? Are we? And you could say win, and that'll fix that. But you might have to actually approach things differently. You might have to say, okay, he doesn't have an extension in place. We have to do it anyway, because the only way to ever actually change this is to get to the playoffs. If they brought in 2 or 3 guys that they weren't sure were going to extend, and then all of a sudden finish 7th. They might find that one of those guys might extend, or some other free agent might treat the organization as a serious operation where they could build something. And I feel like living in this little purgatory of, well, no one can come here and no one will extend, so we have to keep doing the same thing, is just going to continue to lead to these exact same scenarios.
Yeah, well, what you have to do is severely overpay somebody so they will come. That the money is just too good to pass up. And they thought, well, it helps that Tage Thompson scored the golden goal. Not that people in the NHL don't know Tage Thompson, but that gives you a little bit of fresh look at, yeah, cool. Did you see what he did in the World Championships? He scored some overtime goals. That wasn't the only overtime goal he scored. And what was a key part of Team USA, leading them to the gold medal. And, you have to be pretty sure you can tell player A that Alex Tuck, has a good chance of coming back here, and there's a solid foundation. And then of course you're going to push the Rasmus Dahlin part of it. What he has been able to do with a team that's not very good, and so those are the things I think that you have to push. But it's going to have to be a severe overpayment of money, without question, to even get somebody to say, hey, this is an up and coming team, and this is a team that maybe we'd like to be a part of.
Qualifying offers went out for a number of players. No qualifying offer to Jacob Bernard-Docker, which is a bit of a head scratcher.
Well, I wonder how much Lindy Ruff had to do with that, because Lindy Ruff has more of a say in roster construction and how rosters are. Maybe he has a different vision of what he'd like to see in that position. Maybe he saw something different than we did for what he wants in a defenseman. So that could have been something that he said, I really don't have a spot for him, or I'd like so-and-so, which would be a better position for that. So it's possible that. The other thing that's possible is, before free agency starts, they could sign him to a new contract. Mm-hmm. They did that with Jost, where they did not qualify him, and the next day they signed him. So that's a possibility, is what they could have in mind here also. Would
you be open to him coming back? Would you think that's a good idea? To me, letting him walk for absolutely nothing would be silly. I mean, even if you qualify him, it's near the minimum salary in the NHL, so it's not expensive. Just have a guy in your system somewhere and send him off for a 4th or 5th round pick, which isn't much. But would you think that? What do you think is more likely, that they say no thanks, it didn't work out in that short period of time? He comes over from the Cozens trade. We saw more of Jacob Bernard-Docker than we ever saw Josh Norris. Would you be surprised if he is gone or if he is re-signed?
Well, the other thing that could be in play here is they could be making room for Ryan Johnson, who turned into a shutdown type defenseman in Rochester last year. And they might want him in that spot, which is another thing I was thinking about as I thought about the whole thing. He also is a restricted free agent who was qualified, so and Lindy Ruff knows what Ryan Johnson can bring to the table, so that might be a possibility. But at the end of the day, if you're a good team, what we're talking about is your number 6 or 7 or number 8 defenseman. So I don't know. I understand what you're saying, and I just think there's a lot of hand wringing over a number 6, 7, 8 guy. And as I said, Lindy might want Ryan Johnson in that spot instead.
Just real quick, I think the hand wringing might be more about the second round pick, because they threw that in with, Cozens for Norris. Is that not a good deal, kind of straight up? And the two other pieces involved are Jacob Bernard-Docker and a second.
Well, I don't think the defenseman had anything to do with the second round pick. I think the idea is Norris is considered a little bit better player than Cozens is, and that's what the second round pick is about. I don't think it had anything to do with Bernard-Docker.
Do you feel like, Paul, their blue line is done? That if a Byram trade is to come, that the roster the way it is now is largely what it will be, or could you still see them doing something on whatever level that would be today or in a trade to kind of replace Byram? Or do you think, again, they think they have that in-house?
I could see them trading Samuelsson away. I'm not predicting it, but I could see it. I could see that happening. So, no, I don't think it's all set, but I could see that happening. I could see, Adams talked about it on Saturday when it comes to Byram, that it sounds like maybe it could be maybe a 1-year deal that he gets if the trade market just isn't what the Buffalo Sabres want. And just because you sign him to a 1 or 2 year deal doesn't mean you're not going to trade him. You still can trade him. All that does is to tell the other team what they'll be paying him, at least for a year or two, if that's what you happen to do to keep him around. Or if he understands that, look, the trade market for what we wanted to get for you right now is not there, he might be willing to sign the 1 year deal, and he also might want to see what the Sabres are going to be like in this year. All right, you've told me what your plan is. Let's see what your plan, how it works out. Let's play. And, I'll play with Darlene, for a year. And, at the end of the year, we'll do this again and see what happens. And, all right, you've told me what you want to do. Show me.
Do you almost feel like that would be a part of it, the conversation, with if they were to come to terms or to start talking about a 1 year deal, that because I think we know that Byram wants a bigger role, or at least a large enough role if it's going to be here or elsewhere, that there would be a conversation of, hey, like, we'll do this for another year and you're going to play with Rasmus. Like, we're not going to stick you on the third pair and play you 15 minutes a night.
Right. And the only thing he might not be happy with is he doesn't get power play time unless Darlene or Power get injured. But he's going to be out there in key situations. He's going to play a lot of minutes. He probably 20 to 24 minutes in a game, depending on, how long Darlene plays in the game. So, he will be out on a penalty kill, so he'll get those minutes. So he'll be out there in key situations if he's Darlene's partner. He just, unless there's an injury, won't get much power play time.
It is kind of funny, Paul, that the Byram conversation always is around he wants a bigger role. And I know this is only true because Darlene got hurt last year, but Byram did play the most minutes on the team last year. But it's still, right, it's about power play too, right? And it's that there are points there that help you get a contract, and it's tough. I mean, even Darlene doesn't put up 60, 70 even strength points a season. If you don't get power play time, it's hard to put up 60, 70 points and get that $9+ million a year contract.
You're right. No, and that's part of playing a lot and being out there in all key situations is to get that power play time. And he certainly wasn't going to get in Colorado with Makar, and it doesn't look like he's going to get it here either if he stays. But he is going to be out there again with Darlene in key minutes in key situations, playing at the end of games and those types of situations.
Paul Hamilton joining us, talking about Sabres free agency potentially and trade chatter. Paul, how about development camp? Radamurka rolls out in number 57. Visions of a former very large puck-handling defenseman from a long time ago.
Yeah, that made me laugh when I saw they gave him Tyler Myers' sweater. So that was apropos. I mean, I go, yeah, all right, that's cool. And, to see him there. And so, yeah, it's fewer guys. There's only 8 forwards in camp. The last couple of years, they've reduced it. They haven't made the Amerks come back after playoffs. And all those, I think all those guys have been to a development camp before. I'm pretty sure. So it's not like they haven't been there before, haven't done it before. They're not as it used to be. Sometimes you'd be in development camp for 3 years. It doesn't seem like that's happening anymore unless you're a goaltender. So it might be Scott Ratzlaff's third appearance here, I think, maybe. But the other ones, the only Amerk here is the guy they signed out of college, Tyler Koff, and the rest of them, Hellenius, Ostlund. But they'll be here, and I'm sure they'll play in the Prospects Challenge in September. And I think they've changed their mind on what's important. It's like, okay, you had a run with the Amerks, you need your time off, and then you need to get going and start training again. And I think they feel that's more important for some of those guys who have been through it before, played with the Amerks. So, the 2 Russian defensemen, Hellenius, all those guys, aren't here for it.
Yeah.
Paul, do you have a thought on some of the early signings in the league? And also, I don't know, how much of a story right now is the cap circumvention stuff? Because there's a lot out there that the league wants to maybe crack down on that. And I don't know if this is the part they want to crack down on, but Vegas maybe leaning on Pietrangelo a little bit so they can get him on LTIR and get Marner. Marchand signing a deal that I think Florida knows he will not see the end of.
37 years old, he gets a 6-year deal, so
right,
and it's front-loaded.
I think they know he'll be retired, or maybe he'll be LTIR for half of that. So I don't know. How do you view some of these, playing with the cap type deals early on?
Well, I think the NHL has to figure it out so teams aren't hiding players until the playoffs, and like Vegas and Tampa and the teams that do it all the time. I believe Pietrangelo is injured. I don't think they're playing games there. It seems like a very serious injury for him, and something that probably, it sounds like he's going to end his career. So that this is more of a retirement than anything else. But I don't know if you can say that with some of the other injuries that over the years that they've been able to put on long-term IR, and then all of a sudden, well, here we are. It's the playoffs. Come on out, guys. You can play. Or Kucherov with Tampa Bay, or, the names go on and on and on. So, yeah, it is a problem in the NHL, and it's something that they have to figure out with a solution that is going to work, because it's quite honestly, it's just not fair. Maybe they are breaking the rules because you don't know exactly how hurt the guy is and the regular season. Really good teams use the regular season as an 82-game preseason, getting ready for the playoffs. So as long as you're in the playoffs, it's like, okay, yeah, we can do without player A for X amount of games, as we're going to be in the playoffs, and we can have these players here because we can keep this player on long-term IR and then pull them off when the playoffs start, and away we go. And that's the kind of garbage that they have to figure out.
Isn't the simplest solution just make teams be cap compliant in the playoffs? I guess I don't know why they don't have that in the first place.
You could just do the team that's on the ice has to be cap compliant. That's
right.
Pretty easy fix.
No, absolutely. But they have to, they have to get that into the CBA and make it so it's not so easy for teams to be able to do that. And isn't that typical NHL though? You have a salary cap until the most important part of the season
and
comes.
And then poof, it goes away. And
then you don't have a salary cap. And I scratch my head going, really? But yeah, that's right. It's the NHL, so I guess, that makes sense.
That's not like them to not think of things.
That's the only reason it makes sense, because it's the NHL.
Yeah. 803-0550, our phone number. Paul Hamilton. If you hear anything you want to jump on, we've got an open segment next. Paul, thanks very much on the update on development camp, and we'll give you a call if, of course, anything happens in free agency or trade.
Yeah, folks planning on coming down. It's 9 o'clock today.
Okay.
Obviously, because of free agency, they want to get this on the ice, off the ice, and get people into the rooms they need to be in when free agency starts at noon.
Very good. Thanks, Paul.
Yep.